positive tension, positive pressure to make sure that I step up to the promise that drew all of these people to our team. How do I do this differently so that the outcome is what I hope it to be? You need to step in to those challenges, face them head on, and deal with it. It's keeping it alive through conversations, through concrete actions, through communication. I think that really helped to accelerate and fuel and frame the approach.
Yes.
Frame the pathway.
Welcome to Confessions of Leaders. In this episode, Marie-Ève Jacques, the head of CSL Canada. How do you create a startup in pharmaceutical while engaging and motivating your team? That's the answer you'll hear in this podcast. Have a good listen. Okay, Marie-Ève Jacques, welcome to Confessions of Leaders. I'm so excited to have you.
Thank you. Super thrilled to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely, because I'm excited because what you're going through is such an exciting period. You are creating, almost from scratch, a startup in pharmaceutical industry with CSL. Do you want to tell us what you're doing? What's the crazy adventure you're on?
Absolutely, with pleasure. So I have been in the industry for over 25 years. I've been at CSL, which is a big enterprise, international global enterprise. It's actually an Australian company. And most recently, they decided to create a new business unit in Canada. And I have decided to take on that adventure of being employee number one and establishing a brand new business unit to represent one of our entities.
Okay, so employee number one, right there. Start with what went through your mind when they offered you the job and you were thinking about it, saying, oh my God, am I going to take this job? Like, what was the process?
I think that, initially it's intrigue, the curiosity of just seeing what this is. So a lot of conversations with senior management about the company, because this entity had also been established for quite some years. There was an acquisition made by CSL. And so we were looking at an iconic brand, which I thought was very appealing, with iconic products to bring to market. And then the biggest draw for me was the opportunity to build a team from the ground up. In my career, I had never had the chance to do that. Most often you inherit a team with great individuals, but this time around it was different for that reason. And I'll tell you that was my biggest draw, but I'm not going to lie. I did have a little moment after having accepted that this was quite the task. And I remember taking a selfie in front of the building by myself going, oh my God, what did I just do? And then it quickly passed when the other team members started to join, and I just saw it take form.
And I find it so interesting because we'll talk about how you built your team and what kind of energy you're putting behind it. But I find it really interesting that at some point in your career, you're ready to really be the number one, the person where accountability stops. How did you manage that in your heart?
I think I was just ready. I was ready to take that on. It was a role that I was looking to step into at some point in my career. And then when that one opportunity came up with all that we've talked about in terms of building from the ground up, I think I knew in my heart that was the right thing for me to do, to continue learning and growing. But it was certainly in my career aspirations to occupy such a role.
What was the biggest surprise, both positive and a bit challenging?
The biggest surprise, I think, maybe it's just you forget what it is to be by yourself. You're a little shell-shocked when you look around and it's just you. But then it's a time to look inwards. So it's a time that you'll never get back.
Yes.
And I knew that too, because from the moment that others join and the team forms and builds, then there's no looking back. It's like those first few weeks when you join a company where you can just, study, put your head down and
be a newbie.
Exactly. Yes. And no phone calls and too many distractions. It was that time. But then there's an element of loneliness where a lot of it falls on your shoulders, right? And you have to just get it up and going.
And what were in those times of internal soul searching for your position, what were, would you say, the top 3 priorities you had when you kind of said, okay, I've got this time before the team comes in? What are you focusing on at that point?
I think, I mean, looking back again at my career, doing an inventory of what worked, what didn't. I kept track of those types of things. I actually have a little book of certain projects or actions or things that I've tried or heard, and I just make note of it. So I spent a lot of time, I would say, reading what I had collected over the years, reading new books, and then thinking through, how do I do this differently so that the outcome is what I hope it to be.
I love it. You and I met somewhere down that road, but you were very intentional. What were those intentions? Like building a great team for sure. What were the other things that you say, I really want to do this way?
And I mean, and credit to you, because your book offers a clear, concise process with definitions, and intuitively, I believe that's what I was doing. But now that we've started sort of exploring more together, I think I'll be more rounded. But it really started with establishing my vision. And the vision through creating this culture or this environment where I wanted people to be drawn to come and work in this unique workspace or environment. And that came as well with knowing what my core values were. Like a lot of soul searching on that. I think some people are lucky enough to find out early on in their career. For me, it's been there, but it sort of curated over time. I had to, try things, fail.
And now you had to voice those.
Yes.
You had to share those in order to draw that team.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. So really defining what the values are.
What are they?
Being able to communicate them. A few things that really stand out for me personally, at the top is family. And by family, I think of values like trust, specifically trust. And I think of authenticity, that ability to bring your true self to the workplace. I think that's just so critical. I think of performance and ambition. I'm believed to be an ambitious person, and that's a driver for what I do. And those would be my top 3.
So authenticity, I think this is what I heard from your team. So you and I work together, and on your team, everybody would say, when we asked for feedback, oh my God, transparency, authenticity, like real fun as well. And so how do you combine performance and fun together? Because that can be really daunting when you have a big ambition, big objectives, and you feel the weight of that. Whereas it seems on your team, to the contrary, it lifts people up. What's the energy, and how do you draw that energy inside of you?
I think part of it is probably my inner wiring. That's just how I'm wired. And why would it not be fun?
Yes.
Why does it have to be stressful or not fun? Or I just can't fathom that. So if we can bring the fun to the workplace and make it enjoyable, whatever it is, it's not that we're not doing serious things. We're doing serious things, but enjoying the process. And I think there's a lot of positive energy that you can draw from that.
Would you say that's the thing you're most proud of?
What I'm most proud of, yes, but I actually, the thing that I'm most proud of is that alignment, having found people that align to the core values, to the culture that I was envisioning, and that are like-minded and that want to take part in that. Yes. That's what I'm most proud of and most, I would say, humbled by.
And how did you get to that place? How did you create that safe environment for people to be in that space?
Through conversation, through knowing, step one is knowing what your values are, as we talked about, and being able to communicate them in concrete terms, and just bringing them to life in the day-to-day. And I think, too, when I reflect back and I see how that resonated with those that chose to come on this team, and then passing it forward to the people that they hired in turn. And again, that for me was an eye-opening moment where I was pleasantly surprised to see people drawn by the type of environment that we were intentionally, the energy and the type of environment that we were intentionally creating.
Yes. Okay, so you moved from employee number one being one to 5 or 6 approximately, and then you launched not too long ago, and then have how many people join in?
Correct. So now we're 21.
Yep.
We should be 24 in the next few weeks, if all goes well. And next year at this time or earlier, we should be approximately 35.
How do you stay in that same space with now 30 or almost 30 people when you were 5, 6 people?
The alignment is critical. Finding people that are willing to embrace what we are describing. It's keeping it alive through conversations, through concrete actions, through communication. And we try to really optimize any opportunity to communicate, whether it's our town hall or weekly one-on-ones, and bring that to the forefront. So in many of our opening remarks to the meetings that we'll have, we will make reference to this vision that we have. And I think I personally need, along with my colleagues, to be the guardian. It's going to take effort. I think you could slip easily when stress goes up, when life events happen, you could slip. But you really need to be the guardian of the promise that we made to each other, that this is what we wanted and this was the environment, and let's hold hands through it, through thick and thin.
And the promise you made, and we worked on a contract, on a team contract, so that's really like an official promise that we make to each other. I so appreciate when you say it would be easy, especially at this time, where you're launching, where operations could really take over, to forget about the vision and the ambition. What are you putting in place for you to be able to be disciplined on that? Like, what are the reminders? What are you giving yourself the permission to do or not to do in order to be that guardian of that vision?
If our contract is our beacon, I think the revisiting and refreshing what has been agreed to and reminding ourselves of that as a leadership team to start off, I think is critical. And it hasn't been that long, but I do catch ourselves or team members of calling out, hey, we promised this, we didn't do that. Hey, so I see that it's slowly but surely being integrated into our DNA, and I think you need to do more of that. But there has to be dedicated time to pausing, revisiting, making sure that we're still on track, and again, having this shared responsibility of protecting what is so near and dear. And again, we all come with a lot of experience and we know what we don't want. So if we want to maintain what we like and what we wish to have, we'll need to work at it.
Talk to me about this co-responsibility you just talked about, meaning you're not the only one guardian of that. How does that show up?
It shows up in how it gets passed over. As I mentioned earlier, you know, when I saw that the leadership team hiring their teams and describing again the environment, which that they had very much embraced in a clear, succinct, compelling manner, I saw people leave very comfortable situations to come and take part in this adventure, which confirmed that, you know, we had a team of individuals that were really committed and that could hold the promise. And so I really feel that it doesn't fall all on my shoulders. I'm going to work very hard to protect it, but I really believe that I have colleagues that are equally vested in making sure that this holds. So I saw it come through that. I see it in the meetings again and how we treat each other and the shared responsibility for the facilitation of our leadership team. We have we take turns to take different roles and wear different hats, and at times be the observer, at times be the leader, at times be the challenger, and all these essential roles that allow you to gain perspective.
Yeah.
And and just step back and ensure that again we hold true to that contract that we made.
So let's dive in just a tiny bit more on those roles, because we kind of know about them as a leader. We kind of heard about it, devil's advocate for sure, maybe facilitator, but maybe not the observer, as you said, which allows you to take a bit of a step back, or challenger, which could be the devil's advocate. What do you feel has brought the best return on those roles? Like different perspective, you said, but what else did it bring to your team that if you didn't do those roles, you don't think you would have gone there?
I think it allows team members and people to grow and develop, because your natural instinct is to go back to what you're good at. Challengers are challengers, observers are observers, leaders are leaders. And so to be forced into a role that is naturally not your usual state, I think puts you in a great position to learn new skills. So that's what I've seen. Those that tended to be more the challengers are now the observers.
Yep.
And I think they, and myself, for occupying all these roles, you learn and grow. I think you just, in the end, you become a more rounded person.
How did you grow in these past few months as a leader?
Jeez.
I know, it's a big question. I know.
How did I grow? I think that I have a greater, I don't know if it's part of growing, but I certainly have a greater sense of responsibility towards others. I've always been very committed to whatever it is that I do, but I have this sense of, heightened sense of responsibility towards the team and others, and making sure that I follow through on my promise. So I think that's how I've grown in a comfortable way. It's not negative. It's positive tension, positive pressure to make sure that I step up to the promise that drew all of these people to our team.
Yeah, so because they're coming for the team that you built, that's that's the increase in responsibility. That's where it comes from.
I would say so. It puts heightened pressure on making sure that, I'll say don't disappoint, but it's not disappointment, that I step up to the promise.
Yes.
To the bold ambition that we talked about. We really painted that picture of where we were going and how confident we were of what we could reach. And I think that's the promise we need to follow through on.
And that speaks to me, to your intention, back to your intention, because often we see leaders with a performance intention, like we want to perform. Absolutely. Rarely do I see that balance between performance and the spirit, not even the team dynamics, I would say the team spirit. So that combination of intention, where does it come from?
In my perspective, it comes from the people. If you get that part right from the start, that's your foundation. And from the people, and in choosing the right people, investing in your people, the rest will come. You will be profitable. You will have success with your launches and your products and all of that. But I think it comes from that place of really wanting to make sure that the foundation is solid.
So it's interesting because it would have been easy for you to say, oh my God, we're building a business. And then focusing on the business plan and then putting processes in place, and which obviously you did. But your priority was, okay, let's build a team.
Yes.
And you and I met as you were actually just hired your last people on your leadership team, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yes.
And you were saying, okay, I want this part to be really, really solid, that we work really well together as a team. Mm-hmm. And usually people do that when, we've had the chance to work together. We need to adjust a couple of things. So let's talk about our team dynamics. You, on the contrary, said, no, I want to get this thing down right away. Mm-hmm. Why did you know this would make a difference? Like, what allowed you in your past experiences know that this was so important?
I think you've just said it. It is from past experience. You have these contrasting situations where you can really discern what works and what doesn't. Mm. And I knew, based on experience, that what worked and what could take us to the next level is us being very tight as a team. So I had started investing time on that. And it's actually through one of the team members that we've come to talk about taking it a little bit further with officializing, the support through your expertise as a coach, executive coach. And I think that really helped to accelerate and fuel and frame the approach.
Yes.
Frame the pathway. Mm. Again, there are things you do intuitively, but it's good to know what the steps are and the processes, and they have a name, and there's a pathway to it, and it makes it easier when you know. So I'm very grateful, actually, for that colleague that suggested it, and I would not do it any other way. I think there's an element of luck there, too, that it all happened when it did. I was working towards that, but I think working officially on it with intention is fueling our fire.
You know what surprises me? That 53% of you who listen to the podcast have not yet subscribed to my YouTube channel. And I ask you to actually hit the subscribe button to show that you really appreciate what we're doing here. And I promise, this is my commitment, to do everything in my power to actually make these episodes better and better every time, and to make sure that we talk about topics with guests that really interest you. That experience about global, because you're here in Canada, your head office is in Ottawa, but the company is Australian, as you mentioned. And so every other interaction that you have is with global. How do you manage that relationship in launching a business, having to hear and use and also talk to and share and feedback to global? Mm-hmm.
It's been phenomenal, I have to say. Leadership starts from the top, and I happen to have wonderful leaders. The entity that I am part of is actually in Switzerland, and so a little bit closer than Australia, time zone-wise. But it's as if at times we were in the same city. I feel their support, their presence. They are, again, we talk about being like-minded. As a team, we are like-minded. They're very empowering in their approach and have been since day one. So I would say that it's been very smooth, and actually part of the pleasant surprise of taking on this new mandate is discovering all these great colleagues that I have on the global team.
So when you project yourself in a year from now, you and I are sitting down here and you're saying, I'm so excited because...
I'm so excited because we will have reached certain milestones. I'd confirm that we are on our way to reach our goal, which is to make this business unit very successful with, again, the people that are part of it, and success will come to in achieving certain key milestones and in growing. I think our goal is to take this much further and make it bigger and more successful. And so I think in a year from now, we will have met certain markers and we will see signals of future growth and build.
What did we not talk about so far that you feel is important for people that are listening, that are either launching or creating a startup, but also just creating a team from scratch, or maybe just becoming a leader of a new team? What do you feel is important to tell them?
So we talked about the importance of the people. We talked about knowing yourself and your core values. I think the other element that may be useful is just being very cognizant and mindful of the importance of speed. You need to move quick, and you can't do it alone. You cannot move at this pace by yourself. So you have to trust and you have to empower people to do the jobs that they were hired to do. So I think that's a big one. Many leaders will tend to take on a lot, and which could have been a natural reflex because I was by myself for a certain period of time.
Yes.
But you hire talented individuals that come and take their roles and step into them, and that's how you can move fast. But speed is another one.
So it's interesting because speed, empowerment in your mind goes hand in hand together. Because if you don't empower, you're never going to get speed.
It'll be hard. It'll be hard to move that fast, especially with all that is to be accomplished.
How do you communicate that trust to your team? Like, how do they know that you trust them beyond perhaps even telling them?
I think it's in the day-to-day actions. The actions speak. And giving people freedom, showing that you trust, letting people take decisions for what they own. It's proof. Proof is in the pudding. If you say you trust, then show that you trust.
And then let them.
Let it go.
Yes.
Let it go.
But many leaders find it really hard. So they'll say, yeah, I trust you, but then they'll kind of take it back.
And then they don't trust.
Yeah. And that was very surprising when when we work together and when I see your team actually light up, both from a responsibility and accountability, but also from a validation, satisfaction point of view, because they know they are being trusted.
But I think... we treat people as we wish to be treated. And you have to keep that in mind. And to see them trust that I have full trust in what they do as well gives positive feedback, right?
Yeah.
I can see that they are thriving and that they're stepping into their role, and what else would I want but that? You hire, again, talented individuals to come and occupy really key roles. Let them. They're the experts. They'll actually teach you something,
What would you want to say to your 20-year-old self?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think just take your time. Take your time to develop a skill set, to build confidence. I think I had such expectations that, things would come overnight and easily.
Yes.
And there's something really interesting about looking back and all the experiences that make who you are. But back then, I think I was in a hurry.
Of the result of creating, of just
hurry
knowing
probably hurry to just achieve.
Yes. Getting there.
Yes.
And not appreciating perhaps the journey of getting there.
Exactly. And I think that can lead to disappointments too, right? And not because on many of your podcasts, you've talked about imposter syndrome.
Yes.
And I think if you're always chasing something and not in the moment learning, developing, it can feed that. And in my case, it certainly did.
And then you lose that opportunity of the learning in that moment. Yes. What do you think your kids understand or know about what you do? And how does that influence them?
It's funny when they were younger, and it's kind of hard to explain what the pharmaceutical industry is. And so I would just tell them I save lives. But then they're like, how do you save lives? Well, I save lives by helping, patients and physicians through, some of these therapeutic solutions.
Yes.
And then I would confuse them even more. But I believe that now, with their age and growing, and they see the perfect marriage in the business side of things, the science side of things, the people, the leadership. I think they see that this industry or these roles that we occupy are one that can fulfill many aspirations.
Yes.
And you can help in different ways.
So let's talk about the lives that you're saving. I don't want to talk about product or not, but how does that feed into the conversations you're having, and what space does the patient occupies actually in your business?
It's huge. That's the core of what we do. In the middle of in the heart of all that we do, in the center, are the patients. Ultimately, they are the ones that are being offered our therapeutic solutions, and hopefully that will be life-altering once they take them. So we take that very, very seriously, and we have many conversations, and most conversations center around the patients. And making sure that we communicate all that needs to be communicated for them to take product and know about the product and the safety of the product and all that comes with it. But patients have always been at the core of what we do.
So the journey has been very positive, but in any big ambition, which yours is, there's challenges. What are they? And what's difficult, and what is it that you're wanting to make better?
Everyday challenges. That's the reality. And I would say from day one, starting with myself, never did I pretend that it was going to be perfect, because it is not. We face daily challenges on multiple fronts. Systems, timelines, legal pushbacks, anything that you can think of. It's a daily occurrence.
Yeah,
it's a daily occurrence that something challenging comes our way, and I come to appreciate and anticipate those challenges because they keep coming, and it's how you face them. And I think there's to a certain degree in our roles, you need to expect them, you need to face them head on, and you almost need to find enjoyment in resolving challenges.
In resolving complex issues.
Complex issues.
Like a puzzle type of thing.
100%.
Yes,
it's exactly like a puzzle, because that could easily drown you.
Yes.
There are probably more challenges
than wins
on a daily basis.
Yes.
And if you don't switch your mindset on that, I think you could easily feel the pressure.
And yet you choose to, that's my sense, to have more energy towards the wins than towards the challenges.
I put equal energy on resolving the issues.
Yes.
Head on, let's tackle them. Many are not easy. They can take months to resolve. They can take days to resolve, but I think you have to invest equal energy and not shy away. You need to step in to those challenges, face them head on, and deal with it.
And they feed the wins.
They absolutely feed the wins, and they feed the growth. If all you do is focus on the wins, then you're not going to learn from having faced these challenging situations. But there are plenty.
Name one thing that you would have done differently now that you have, 8 months? I think 8 months approximately. One thing you would have done differently now that you know. Obviously,
now that I know.
Insight is 2020, but still.
I think with the time that we had, if I could go back, maybe a little bit more time closer to the field from the start, and going to the different stakeholders, taking the pulse and getting maybe a better read of the market earlier on. I think it would have given us a few more additional insights that could have helped to accelerate things and propel. But yeah, I would spend more time in field.
So you had your first launch. We talked about this. What was the intention going in, and how were you able to deliver on that? What kind of action did you put in place to be able to deliver on your intention?
The intention was to make sure that the team understood the mission and the vision. That was step one. And then that they were ready to the degree that they could be ready with a meeting of that length to be out and represent us and our product and be ambassadors for the company and do it with confidence. So it started with setting a clear agenda with those objectives and then defining what content would help us reach that goal. So we gave a lot of careful thought to the content that was going to go into this meeting, aspects of team building as well. This was the first time the team was coming together. So again, that sense of belonging and to the culture and experiencing the culture in clear, concrete terms and actions, put a lot of intentional thought there, and then feeding them with the information that they needed to be confident to go out.
If I'm a woman in the industry, women in the pharmaceutical industry, I think have great opportunities. Probably it's one of the industries where we see many more women compared to other industries. But still, there's some challenges. What kind of tips would you give women to really be successful in the pharmaceutical industry?
So many things, and you're way better positioned than I to comment on that. But I would say build a network.
Yeah, build your village.
Build your village.
Yes.
Be intentional about your intentions and your career aspirations. Give it some thought. Even if you don't know exactly where, have these conversations. Try to uncover what it is that you possibly aspire to do, and take risks in expanding your wings and trying new things and venturing outside of your comfort zone.
That's what I was going to say. When I think of you, you have a great ambition. You do things very well, but it seems you're not stopped by your desire of being perfect. And therefore, you're willing to take risks. You're willing to trust the people that you have on your team. You're willing to fail. How does that play in you being able to play your role, you feel?
I think that's just the environment or the state that I need to work in to be myself. Like I don't think that I could show up if that was not the case. So that I recognize in myself to be at my best and to bring my best forward, I need to have this kind of environment where I can try things, I can make mistakes. I don't like making mistakes, but I certainly make them and learn and grow from that and move on.
Balance. You're very keen on keeping a balance, even though it might be crazy at times. How do you keep that balance? You run? What else?
And by balance, you mean a work-life balance?
Yeah.
Work-life balance. I've had my ups and downs on that one, right? Through my career. One of my core values is family.
Yeah.
And so at times when you lose sight of that, you can feel it in your bones that you're off track and you need to come back on track and then make decisions that will allow you to do just that. So I think that alignment to your values and listening to your gut and then making decisions that will help to align those. So for the family, at times it hasn't been perfect, but I have a wonderful partner that helps to counterbalance those moments. And now with time and experience, I'm very mindful of what I want and what I don't want, and then we'll make the right decisions to make sure that has a place in my life and I can maintain that balance.
And so how does that show up? Like, how do you make those choices? How do you not make those compromises? What's been a very difficult decision perhaps you had to make? Or maybe it wasn't that difficult, but like, okay, we're going to choose family here. We're going to choose work here.
Yeah.
Like, how do we make those decisions?
Well, in hindsight, it probably wasn't that big of a deal, but back then it was. The first 20 years of my career were spent in one single company. And when I felt that misalignment on that specific value, the family, is when I made the decision to step away and leave that company. Back then, I felt like I was on the, at the edge of a precipice about to fall. I look back, it only brought good things in my life. I had lost nothing, I gained. And in the process, it allowed me to get closer to that value that is so near and dear.
And choosing you.
Choosing me, choosing my family, which is the most important thing in my life. So, and since then, I think, that compromise, I will not make anymore. I learned, and I am adamant about what is important and not, and I would not compromise in that regard.
I think I want to leave it on this note. Let's not make any compromise on who we are. I think that's a fabulous invitation for our listeners, because it seems to me that we already have all the answers within us.
I think so. And again, for me, it's trial and error. It's for having overstepped that boundary and knowing what state it put me in, that I'm not going back. It comes from that place. But again, I admire people that from day one have that knowledge and these insights and intuition so fine-tuned. But in my case, it came from learning. And
really anchoring now. You feel you can give yourself permission to really anchor yourself in what you need and who you are. Yeah, but that's the greatest gift,
and
isn't
it works.
Yes, that's the thing.
And it works.
That's the thing. And right before this recording, actually, I was coaching one of the leaders that I coach, and she is, as we speak, getting a really big promotion, and she is going to have that exact conversation before accepting that promotion. Meaning, I need to have fun and space for myself in order to be good in my job. And when she does this, because we've worked together on it, when she does this, she is good at her job. But when she doesn't, that's where everything kind of breaks and feels unnatural. Yeah. So let's leave our listeners on that note. Okay. Listen to yourself. Make sure you give yourself what you need to be successful. I want to recognize, because I think you've been in some ways modest here in our conversation. I want to recognize the heart that you really put, and I hope our listeners have heard that, the heart that you put in wanting your team to feel really like the owners of their business, their part. And that really is the key to having a team engaged and motivated and willing to climb mountains and achieve greatness. So thank you for that. So as a leader, do you find yourself challenged by the day-to-day operations and wondering, how can I get back to the bigger picture? If you listened to Marie-Ève well, you'll see that she actually sees complex situations, challenges, like a game, like a puzzle, to find the solution to really unleash the full potential of that situation. And I thought that was really interesting, because it is easy to get bogged down. But if you, like Marie-Ève, sees the glass half full, there's a potential there that perhaps can transform a challenge in an opportunity. And that's my invitation, actually, to all of us. How can we transform our challenges in opportunity, and really allowing us to focus on what really matters? In this case, I hope you saw that too. Her priority number one is her team. The rest, as she says, will follow. The performance of her team, of her business unit, will follow thanks to that. So giving yourself the opportunity to transform challenges into opportunity to get the focus on what really matters. Subscribe, like it. It just allows our great conversations like we've just had to be seen by more people just like you that can benefit from it. So thank you for listening. Till the next time. This episode is brought to you by O2 Coaching's One Team program.